Chapter 4, Lesson 4, Finding the Circumference of a Circle. The circumference of the circle is the distance around the circle. We will show this by highlighting it in blue. The circumference is also, it's not just the distance around, it is also the line around the circle. A few examples that you might see is going to be a fence around a circular yard. You might see a revolution of a tire. You might also see that it is the rim around a pool. I'm sure there's many more examples that we can show you. The diameter is the distance across the circle going through the center. The diameter can be calculated by the circumference divided by pi. We will talk about that a little bit later. But for now, we are going to highlight the diameter of the circle in pink. If you notice, the diameter of the circle goes from edge to edge of the circle, going through the center. The next part of the circle we are going to talk about is the radius. We will highlight the radius in green. The radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge. The radius can be found by dividing diameter of 2. This means the radius is also half the diameter. The radius is also half the diameter. Again, we'll be highlighting this in green. Both the diameter and the radius can be any line that you create through the circle or from the center to the edge. Let's take a look at pi. What is pi? Many of you already know that pi is equivalent to 3.14 or approximately 3.14, but it is a number that the decimal keeps going without repeating. We will typically use 3 for now. You may also see that pi is 22/7. This one is especially useful when they give us a radius or diameter as a fraction. We want to be able to use 22/7. Pi is also a ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. So you can say pi equals circumference divided by diameter. Do you have any questions at this point? Let's see if we can determine the radius and the diameter of the circle. Remember that the radius is half the diameter, and the diameter is twice the radius. Mathematically speaking, if they give us the diameter, we can take the diameter and divide it by 2 to get the radius. Mathematically, if they give us the diameter, we can take the radius times 2 to get the diameter. Let's see if we can talk about that again, since you couldn't see it. We know that the radius is half the diameter, and mathematically it can be found by taking the diameter and dividing it by 2, which will equal the radius. If you are given a diameter, it is twice the radius, so we can take the radius times 2 to find the diameter. Let's see if we can do a couple of these together. Number 1 says the diameter of a circle is 14 inches. Determine the radius. Well, remember, we're looking for the radius, so we can take the diameter divided by 2 to give us the radius. Since the diameter is 14, we can take 14 divided by 2 and determine that the radius is 7 inches. Remember that it's halfway across the circle, so I can demonstrate it by drawing a circle, and from the point in the center I could say that this was 7 inches. Let's see if you could do number 2 on your own. On second thought, let me do number 2 with you, and then I will let you do number 3 and 4 by yourself. Number 2 gives us the radius of a circle is 8 feet, and it wants us to determine the diameter. And remember, the diameter is equal to the radius times 2. Therefore, if the radius is 8, I can multiply it by 2 and get a diameter of 16 feet. To show you what this looks like, the diameter, remember, it goes all the way across the circle. It would be 16. Do you have any questions about finding the radius and the diameter? Let's see if you can do number 3 through 7 on your own. Did you get the radius was 11.5 or 11.5 on number 3? Good job. Raise your hand if you have any questions about number 3. How about number 4? Did you get the radius was 10 on number 4? That's awesome. Raise your hands if you have any questions. Number 5, did you get a radius of 29? Let me know if you have any questions. Please raise your hand. Number 6 changed it up on you a little bit, didn't they? This one was looking for the diameter, the distance all the way across the circle. Did you get 21? Raise your hand if you have any questions. Last one, let's take a look at number 7. Did you get the distance across the circle or the diameter was 13? That's awesome. Raise your hand if you have any questions on trying to determine the radius or the diameter of the circle or the relationship between the two. Remember, the radius is half the diameter and the diameter is twice the radius. Let's see if we can use these numbers to determine the circumference or the distance around the circle. Let's flip our paper over and take a look. Determining the circumference of a circle. They do give us two formulas to use, but we will be focusing on one formula. We are going to focus on using pi times diameter. And don't forget, we will usually use 3 for pi. Let's take a look at number 8. Number 8 gives us the 42 centimeters going, or 42 meters going all the way across the circle. This tells me they have given the diameter. I will fill out the diameter equals 42 meters. And remember, I'm looking for the radius as well, which is half the diameter. So what is half of 42? That is correct. Half of 42 is 21. But like I mentioned a minute ago, we will be focusing on using pi times diameter to determine the circumference. And we will be using 3 for pi. Therefore, we will multiply 3 times 42. And the circumference of this circle will be 126 meters. Do you think you can do number 9 by yourself? Did you get the circumference is 33 if the circle has a diameter of 11? That's awesome. I went ahead and filled out the diameter of 11. The radius is half of that, which is 5 and 5/10. But I continue to use pi times diameter, which is 3 times 11, and got 33 for the circumference. Let's take a look at number 10 together. Number 10 is giving us the radius of 4. So I will fill in my radius of 4. The diameter is twice the radius, so if I multiply 4 times 2, the diameter would be 8. I am still going to use the circumference equals pi times diameter, so I'm going to multiply 3 times 8. And I will get a circumference of 24 yards. Using the radius, or half the distance across the circle of 4, I double it to get the diameter, multiply it by 3, which is pi, and get a circumference of approximately 24 yards. Let's see if you can do number 11 on your own. Did you get the circumference is approximately 18 feet? That is awesome. They did give you the radius of 3, so it is halfway across the circle. To find the diameter, 6, it would be 6 feet across the entire circle. I'm still going to multiply pi times diameter, which is 3 times 6, and got 18 feet. Let's see if you can do 12, 13, and 14 on your own. Number 12 gave us the radius of a tire is 12. We doubled it to find the diameter and then multiplied it by 3 to get the approximate circumference of 72 centimeters. Did you get the same answer? That's great. What questions do you have? Let's check out number 13. Number 13 gave us the radius of a circle is 11. I doubled it to get the diameter and multiplied it by 3 to get the approximate circumference of 66. How many in a row have you gotten correct? That's awesome. Let's see what you can do with number 14. This time, The circle gave us a diameter of 15. I halved it to get the radius of 7.5, but I went back to the diameter to multiply it by 3, which we're using for pi, to get the approximate circumference of 45 meters. Do you have any questions at this time on determining the circumference given the radius or the diameter? Please raise your hand. Let's take a look at a couple of the word problems that we might see. Number 15 says a merry-go-round has a radius of 20 feet. Each ride on the merry-go-round has a duration of 15 revolutions. How far does a person travel who rides the merry-go-round? I do want to remind you that at the very beginning of our notes, we stated and we wrote down that the circumference may also be given to you in a few other examples. One of them was the line or fence around a yard, the rim of a pool, or revolutions of a tire or an item. This one is giving us revolutions of a merry-go-round. So since it says revolutions, this also means it's looking for the circumference. It also wants to know what would happen if we had 15 of those. So we do need to find the circumference of 1 and then multiply it by 15. They give us a radius of 20, and remember we usually use the diameter, so I'm going to double it for the diameter, and to find the circumference we state that it's pi times diameter, so I will do 3 times 40, and I get one circumference of approximately 120 feet. Now, is this the final answer? No. Why not? Very good. It does ask us to find out how far they would travel if they did 15 revolutions. The 15 revolutions means I need to take 120 times 15 to determine the total distance that they travel on a merry-go-round. They would travel a total of 1,800 feet. Let's see if you can do number 16 on your own. I would actually use 3 instead of 3.14. Let's see if that makes it any easier. Did you get 36 inches? That's amazing. This one was just a little bit different than number 15 because it only wanted one rotation. Therefore, you only had to find the circumference of one of the vinyl discs. Had it have wanted more than one rotation, you would have had to have multiplied it by the number of rotations it was requesting. Do you have any questions at this time about using the circumference of a circle to determine the total distance around an item multiple times? Please raise your hand. Let's take a look at determining the diameter and the radius if you are given the circumference. The diameter is equivalent to the circumference divided by pi. We can actually use 3 instead of 3.14 to get an approximate number. If the question is asking us for the radius, once you find the diameter, you would divide it by 2. Let's take a look at number 17 together. Determine the diameter and the radius of a circle if the circumference is 18.84 feet. Use 3.14 for pi. This one, I might go ahead and use 3.14 instead of 3, but let's take a look. If the diameter is equal to the circumference divided by pi, I would find 18.84 divided by 3.14. Now, since I can recognize that 3 times 6 equals 18, I'm actually going to see if multiplying 3.14 times 6 will give me the circumference of 18.84. I'm going to take pi times 6, 6 times 1, and that's 8, 6 times 3 is 18. And I do. Therefore, I know that my diameter is 6. So if my diameter is 6, then my radius is what? You guessed it, it is 3, because the radius is half the diameter. Again, I would like to note that I actually did not divide 18 and 8400 by 3 and 1400. I first recognized to make a guess and check situation that 18 divided by 3 is 6, so I tried to see if maybe that would work as my number. See if you can do number 18 on your own. Did you get the diameter of 24 and a radius of 12? That's awesome. I did do a guess and check on this one as well. I do know that 3 times 25 gives me 75, so I multiplied pi times 25 first, but that gave me 78.5, which was too much. So I went ahead and went down 1 and multiplied pi times 24 and actually got the 75. Well, I guess it would be 75/36 as my answer. Therefore, I knew that the diameter would be 24 and my radius was half that. Do you have any questions about determining the circumference using the radius and the diameter, the difference between the radius and diameter and how to find the two, or how to find the diameter when given the circumference?